Have you ever wanted to purchase a residential property and not use the long TREC, which is the promulgated form? This PSA or purchase and sale agreement for residential property is 11 pages long. Have you ever had a seller who wants a shorter form? Watch this video to find out what lawyers put in their short agreement. Ron from Ronald Rohde Law, and a common question that I get is, can I use a custom short form agreement for a seller who doesn't necessarily want to read all 11 pages of the very commonly used TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission? This is their promulgated free to use form. You don't need to be a realtor. The answer is yes, you can absolutely create a shorter agreement. But in this video, we're going to walk you through every numbered paragraph and decide whether that's an item that can be transferred over, whether it needs to be transferred over, or if you can cut it. And hopefully at the end of it, you'll know what clauses you need for your contract to make your own custom contract. All right. Let's get started. So we're going to scroll through this. Number one is parties. You definitely need to identify the seller to establish authority to sell this real property. And you want to identify the buyer and or assigns. I think that's really important for wholesalers. They need to be able to assign this contract. Property. The only legal requirement here is that you must be able to specifically identify the property. You don't need a street address, but you need to be able to identify it. Improvements. Is everything going with the property, with the sale, or are there going to be some improvements that don't go with the property? All right, so you can really cut down on this section. We don't need any of these accessories. We don't need improvements. You're really buying the land for the land value. You may have to replace curtain rods, window shades. It's really not that important. Reservations, again, in a residential block, you're not going to really have mineral rights, so you can strike that. Sales price, we typically keep this section. Leases, again, if they're not applicable, cut this whole section and you don't need the leases. Earnest money, this can be a lot shorter. We can just do like 1 or 2 sentences about the earnest money. You can cut about the days and you just introduce some ambiguity into the contract, which is a trade-off. When you have it shorter, you're going to have some unknown parameters. Termination option, maybe you don't even have this. You strike this whole paragraph. Penalties, again, I would really recommend keeping time is of the essence. That is something that you really need. Otherwise, this turns into a very open-ended, ambiguous contract. Title policy. You can definitely cut this down to just a few lines, but you probably still want a commitment and you want some deadline for producing that commitment. Survey, may or may not need that. Objections and title notices. This is pretty ripe area. We cut a lot of this tidewaters. We basically just remove a lot of these notices if they're not applicable. And you really have to know the property, because if you don't put these disclosures, there's a risk that the property could be in a PID and you weren't aware of that. Property condition, we want to keep this. We want to get access. We want to be sure that we can conduct our inspections. No repairs, no lenders, right? We're typically going to do a cash transaction. Typically, again, no brokers, so we can cut paragraph number 8. Closing date, this one we definitely want to keep. Keep a little bit about these general warranty deeds, sales price, proration of all other expenses, possession, you got to keep this one. This one's really critical. Keep this number 10, possession. Special provisions, strike that, right? We're doing completely custom. If there's something you want to add, write it in as 1 or 2 sentences. Settlements, again, you got to look at these expenses and figure out what needs to be prorated on this deal and what doesn't need to be there. Casualty, default, I think you really have to keep these. These are very standard remedies and they really protect both parties. Mediation, delete that, get rid of it. Attorney's fees, keep it. It's pretty small. Escrow, the title company is going to probably want to keep the escrow provisions in there to protect themselves, or they won't close the deal. It really just depends on your relationship, but we usually keep these in. Again, federal tax, you can kind of take that risk as a buyer if you have confidence that they don't need to deliver a FERPTA certificate. Notices, these can get streamlined very small. all of these addendums, 22, you can strike all these. Consult an attorney, strike it. You know, you have good counsel, this guy. But seller's typically not going to have attorney. The execution date, no brokers. Again, so this whole page, page 10 can get removed. And 11, we may keep it, or we may let the title company do their own form. But that's it. I mean, I've just run through the whole 11 pages, and if you were taking notes on what I said strike through for everything, you can probably get that down to about 3 to 5 pages. And I saw somebody asking for a 1-page contract. I think that's really tough. 1 page is either going to be itty bitty font or no margins. You're just going to run too much of a risk of not having terms written in there for what happens if X. And 1 page is probably too short, so you know, we do them for clients maybe in the 3 to 5 range, which again is half, and it's a lot easier to read if you're just a lay person, not necessarily for an attorney. But 4 pages, that will get signed easier than an 11-page TREC form. There is a pretty substantial difference. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed it. I like doing this video with the hat. That was fun. But if you are interested in creating a custom agreement and you don't feel comfortable cutting out the pieces that I just referenced, because again, there's other implications for other paragraphs, the implications, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, great show. They reference other paragraphs. So you want to make sure that you don't cut a paragraph that relies on something else and isn't there. So if you want to do that, drop us an email, contact the law firm, and we can whip one of these up for you. We do everything on a flat rate, and we'll get you taken care of pretty quickly, and you'll get a contract that you can feel good about pushing out to the seller. Thanks, smash that like button, and we'll see you next time.